What is up, everyone? Starting a bit early today. Bum bum bum. Let me see. How do I? Morning, GM. YouTube's gonna be joining us today. Morning, Scott, Mokhtar. How you guys doing? A little bit of an early start. That's okay. Talk about a lot of things here. We'll put Boxy on, talk about some oil to begin with. Morning. How you doing?
Alright. What are you up to today?
Not much, I'm being a little bit cautious about this failure to make all-time highs. Yesterday I begged the Nasdaq, I begged and pleaded, but it didn't happen until the overnight.
Why didn't I listen to you?
These days it really just does the opposite. Crazy, right?
Crazy.
I'll hit the record button
Recording
and go
in
ahead.
progress.
Alrighty. Well, good morning, Victoria. Good morning, Trade Pro Academy. Oil market is up a little bit today. We opened about 50 cents higher than we opened yesterday. You can see that the pivot is down at 65.96, and we caught our open at 66.53, which is close to R1. We did punch through R1 at 2 o'clock this morning and put in a Globex high of 66.74. But since we put in that Globex high, we've just really been sideways for it the most part. You can see we're just sideways rotating the VWAP. So usually in this market kind of condition, we always evaluate for a range while it's sideways. The complicating factor is the VWAP is right in the middle of the range, which is not usually a very good thing. So we're just going to watch this market. Obviously, you can see the edges. The range runs from the 66 teens. Top end looks to be in the 66.50s. If you get a breakout of either one of those edges, then you could spy for a trend. But otherwise, I would say just treat it as a range day. And at this moment, we're right in the middle of this range, so there's not really anything to do right this second. So we'll watch it, trade it, let you know what's up. Victoria, back to you.
Perfect. So let me go ahead and share here. So, morning everyone. Morning Vignesh, everyone else that's joining us on YouTube and in stream today. Yesterday we had some pretty interesting, non-interesting movement in the S&P and the Nasdaq. Nasdaq holding a bit weaker, honestly, and we were looking for continuations to see if we can actually burst through the all-time high on Nasdaq into the end of the session, but several failures making a move into all-time highs actually on the overnight before turning around. Now, I do have a slight little suspicion of the bear side. There are several support areas to the downside because the narrative and the overall momentum is bullish realistically on both S&P and Nasdaq, but let's just talk about how that can kind of shape up here. So this is a volume profile session by session on the Nasdaq. Let's start off with the Nasdaq first. What I'll do as well is we'll open up the delta on it so we can get a look-see on both of these. So let me just move this over a touch. We can start drawing on this. Now, this is Nasdaq here, session by session, and we have the overall delta over here. So the main balances on Nasdaq, we're developing balances. When we trade into all-time highs, we have to get a little more information realistically as these developing balances shape up, and we have a developing balance in and around the bottom band over here on the Nasdaq of 340 and the top band 420. And then the lower band balance over here like this. So I'm just going to write those areas down. You got approximately 340 and 420 into the highs, and then here this is 310. The difference between these two balances is very tight. So yesterday the expansion, we were looking at the potential of holding around 350 on NASDAQ, it held the first test off the open and then came down into the top of the prior balance, which cleans up the prior day earnings unfinished auction before we found the lows and continued on to the upside. So yesterday the balance on the session was created approximately from 340 to 350. The earnings day over here, Wednesday going into the end of the day, you created a lot of positive delta trying to hold prices up, which is a very key area around 300 that we were noticing. And you have the accumulation of absorption of all this negative delta into the higher lows, which comes into the bottom band of this balance. So you have that 340 area, which is pretty imperative for the buyers to hold. But the reason why I'm looking at this in terms of kind of a sneaky suspicion for the sell side is that we made a move into all-time highs. 441.75, if we want to be exact, on the NASDAQ was the all-time high, and then we made this excess above the developing balance here on the weekly that failed, which presents the case for some kind of bearish momentum. So I'm not going to live and die by the idea that I have to sell every single rally here, because we're also creating a B-shaped volume profile with heaviness of volume. I'm going to look at this 340, 350 area on the NASDAQ as a pretty vital support zone. You have a negative delta block around 330 to 350 as well, right? These are very important areas for the buyer to try to hold out the current momentum to see if we can actually push back into the all-time high. I do think the next test of this 300 area is going to be very touchy. I think that there might be a potential failure into that spot that happens if we go down into it. So in my opinion, it's pretty imperative that NASDAQ holds these higher lows into that 340 area so that we can sustain the current momentum of the upside swing. If we take a look a little at what happened on that overnight session here from a price action perspective as well in relation to these areas, just move this over here. Interestingly enough, yesterday, so the idea was negative delta build up 340, 350 into the balance low from yesterday's session. This is the first test, failure to make a new high. We come down into that 300, 310 where we ping the long. I got stopped out on the first long here, but we ping the long here into the top of the prior balance, which was expected to hold. I just thought that we could push into a new high, and they just kept absorbing into that 420. This is a very important aspect here. The failure to accept into a new high after pressing into it, right, is giving us a little more of a sneaky bearish suspicion in terms of what's going on here. You have an accumulation of the delta into the high. You can see down here, this is the 350 area right now. You have delta from the prior day. You have delta over here as well. You have a huge accumulation of absorption that's trying to hold out like super desperately around 350 on this NASDAQ coming into this morning session, right? It's a very, very tough situation, because if this realistically holds, right, you kind of want to be long now, and the anticipated move is that we actually just move from here into a new all-time high, right? That's why it's a bit iffy, because it's still kind of in kind of no man's land. Well, not no man's land, but it's tested this area yet again with a failure to make a new high and the failed acceptance above the expansion of this top. So pretty much, right, the opportunity is be long now to look for a momentum move into the all-time high going into the open, which is not necessarily something I want to do. I think that there could be a test lower, right? Ideally, we don't trade the 300 again on NASDAQ. If there is bullish momentum, we don't trade this area. We trade between 330 and 350. We hold that bid where the absorption happened, and we continue the leg higher from that spot, right? That's what the all-time high would want to see. So I'm still very cautious, because when we get back into 420, I honestly don't really expect it to break, right? I think this failure over here and the failures from yesterday, the sneaky little push up and failure absorption into the highs, suggests that there is some sell pressure from that area to try to bring us lower. We could have a decent little push to the downside on the day, right? I want to be cautious about that and not just buy every single dip like I have been over the last 2 weeks. You take a look at the S&P here now, right? S&P, there's been divergence between the two, right? S&P has been holding a lot better of a bid. It's been rallying into all-time highs more often than the NASDAQ. And it too has created a balanced top area over the last several days, just below that 64.20 on the SPOOs here. So ES, we have the 64, like 18, let's call it 17 area, which is the immediate weekly balance top. And then we have the balance bottom approximately at 95. So you can see incremental higher lows here with heavy volume into these incremental higher lows, continuously pushing higher. So it's telling us that the S&P is holding out better strength realistically than the NASDAQ, especially trying to make new highs. So again, right, I don't love the failed excess above here, but you can see the delta, the absorption is continuously moving into a stepladder fashion higher. So realistically, right, they'd want to hold this midpoint at like 64.03 right now to try and push into a new high, but benefit of the doubt for the buyers, 95 on the S&P is kind of the last chance for that buy side to kind of hold out on the session, in my opinion, to see if we can get that continuation higher. So as it stands on the S&P around 17 to 18 into the highs, I'll probably look for a failure if we get up there, and then the desperation buyer is at like 95 on the SPOOs. You got two desperation buyers on SPOOs and NASDAQ. NASDAQ is currently at the area, so like if they don't go into highs from here, expectations are prices lower, right? And like I said, I don't really want to see 300 trade again on NASDAQ if there's bullish momentum on the day. I don't really want 95 to even trade on the SPOOs if there's going to be bullish momentum on the day. So it's a fight for all-time highs today. We'll see how it shapes up. It is Friday. Generally, they might want to go into the weekend a little happier, but I have to be cautious about all this dip buying because we've seen constant failures into these highs. We're developing some kind of positive delta, but there is insane support structure here. So what that means is if all this absorption, all these trap sellers get pushed aside, you're going to have a pretty drastic pull down that's going to clean a lot of the auctions to the downside, where the S&P could potentially even trade 72 to 75 on the session if we fail to hold these incremental higher supports. So, right, there's a lot to wait to see, right? Summer markets, they're a bit slower. S&P ranged a decent range yesterday, about like 25 points or so, but still kind of slower movement. I've been waiting like the first half an hour recently to kind of let the thing settle down, get a little more information, and start making decisions based on that. It's been holding better than me trying to necessarily trade within that first 30 minutes. I just want more information, right? Markets are a little sleepier. There are some more opportunities the last few days here, I would say, but still like a little drowsy. Thing is, right, look at both of these. You have like negative delta here on S&P and NASDAQ. S&P is approximately 64.03, let's say. NASDAQ is like 355, let's say, right? So what we're seeing in this current situation is that both of these have a desperation buy from this area to see if we can actually just go from here and start bidding. Target would be like into the 17, 18 and into this like 15 to 25. And then see if they actually want to fail from there. Because if they can't hold this area, honestly, there's desperation lower, but I'm going to have to be cautious with that criteria here, as I don't want to continuously be the monkey that keeps buying into lows over and over again. Mike, capital multiplication Friday. For who? Morning, everyone on YouTube is joining us. We got Germany, India. Let me know where everyone else is from. So that's the plan on the day. We'll see how this sets up. We'll do some commentary as things are shaping out. But my main prerogative is being cautious on the constant buys on the session. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's see here. Trading yesterday was solid. Keep buying. That was the thought process once we started moving above the negative deltas that were created, especially on NASDAQ. S&P was very sleepy. I didn't even bother, but start moving above these negative deltas. I think the buy side. I was looking to see if we can break all-time highs into the end of the day. That didn't really happen. Is South Park still running? I didn't see that. Delta, I pull from the Delta profiles. I have a volume profile that's based on Delta, so then that's where I get these areas from. Big Delta clusters like these on NAS and S&P, they generally line up with key auction areas that are based on the volume profiles. I don't know if you have anything else. Yeah, trend updates, I hate those because if I'm not on from the start of the trend move, then like I just wait and nothing really happens. Like slight rotations where people get imbalanced, maybe you can trigger some kind of longs, but I don't think this is gonna trend up today. I don't know. Things can change very easily. There is a B-shaped profile that's shaping up on the current overnight with a lot of accumulation into these lows. Let's see, the open comes out in 4.5 minutes, we can say. What else do we have today? Let me check on some of this news because I'm not very attentive to that. Doesn't really look like much. You got core durable goods that came out, durable good orders that came out, and those are already passed. I don't see any orange or red folders that are expected on the day. This is from Forex Factory itself. So nothing down here on the day to close out the week. Let's see next week. Is there anything interesting? Next week, ADP non-farm employment and change. Advanced GDP quarter over quarter on Wednesday pre-market. That's going to be interesting with all this tariff back and forth. And then the FOMC meeting next week on Wednesday. That's going to be the big one.
You think they're going to cut rates?
It's a good question. I don't. They do. I feel like if they don't, Jerome Powell's getting fired that day.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think he should be.
They're data dependent.
Bull.
Inflation's transitory.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is, so the current target 425 to 450, based on the odds, 95% chance they just keep them as is, which is insane. They're like bottom 5 in the world for, or I guess top 5 in the world for highest rates.
They don't cut rates, Trump will lose his mind.
Oh yeah. Truth Social or whatever it's called is gonna go crazy. Let's see, in September, there's a pretty decent expectation to cut, but obviously that can change. October. By October, they're pretty much pricing in at least one. by the end of the year. At least one. 1 to 2 seems like the current probability.
They're going to cut at 1 point, or they're going to cut at 25 basis points?
25 basis points. Like, the max for the end of the year probability seems to be the most they'd cut is half a point. Could be a choppy day. Friday, though, I don't know. The mornings are usually kind of dead, and they start picking things up in the afternoon. Mike, did they meet somewhere and do a press or something? What was the interaction yesterday?
Yesterday, Trump went to see the renovation.
Oh, I heard that that's like their main prerogative for trying to fire Powell because that's the only cause.
It's like a 2.9 billion project, and you have a 900 million cost overrun so far.
Wait, how many billion? I didn't hear.
2.9.
2.9?
Yeah,
The hell are they renovating the whole city?
I know, right?
Yeah, it might be gone after that. Here's the market open. Bring, ding, 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 ding. And there's my pseudo bell. Let's see. Good office space for what, Mike? Not to cut rates? Let's see how these guys develop, but I wanted to take a look at the Mag 7 here a bit. Be stuff in tech. What is going on? Did the Sierra kind of freeze? One of these charts is showing me a different time. I need better movement. Sierra, let me move this over. What was the current low on NASDAQ? 42 or so. Morning. The NAS is trying to catch a bid. I don't know why it's not updating on this thing. Stream is choppy. NASDAQ tried to catch a bid off that like 350 area. It's kind of slumping back down now.
Just an update from SCNP. They are speaking on copper. It says Trump's top copper tariffs failed to stop US metal being shipped to China. They do note the scrap metal deal based in California plans to continue exporting copper to Asia even after Trump's new 50% tariff comes into force August 1st.
There's still some bids that are showing up around this 350. Like, you got kind of a choppy morning. NASDAQ over the last, like, few days, the movement is so dead. Like, I'm looking at, like, 35-point targets these days. Attempted bid here. They keep trying to sustain. S&P's kind of rolling over. It doesn't look like this buy side really has too much in it. You've got rebids that are getting pulled off continuously. This is like, you're in a desperation area for both of these. Which they're desperately not trying to hold. Well, even Canada's cutting.
Right, according to 1728 economists surveyed, about to hold the overnight interest rate steady at 2.75% on July 30th, say all the 28 economists.
This Nasdaq has a leg to it. I don't know what's going on here. Like taking turns lagging. Yeah. Crappy Sierra.
Just bring your attention to some of the recent downside we are seeing in the crude space. Now see WTI slightly in the red, down about 4 cents. After we do trim those early gains, Brent now down to $69.22 as we do hit fresh session lows.
Let me just do that. Session lows. Nasdaq and S&P are just like rotating right now. Not really much in it. They're still trying to sustain this 350 area. S&P is holding the negative delta that was created on the overnight. We've got like 4 candles that have printed on the current day session. Nasdaq as well, right? 350 is trying to hold. We're catching a bid now, moving into that like 370 area. Desperation buyers, they're trying. And they're failing. Let's see. I'm still like not. There was a big buyer on Nasdaq that shaped up around that like 355. I'm not like super excited about trying to buy this area currently. It's still what, like 6 minutes off the open as well. Not really my favorite sequence of events here. S&P trying to bid. Generally wait the first like 20-30 minutes here to see how this thing shapes up. Nasdaq. Honestly, if there's the bullish momentum, Nasdaq's kind of weaker. What I'd like to see is like come down into this like 330, try to rebid 350 area, and then we could start making some noise. The low of day right now on this Nasdaq is 343. S&P hasn't done pretty much anything. Nas is getting offered back down into that 355 large buyer. Nasdaq about to make a new low. There it goes, new low on Nas temporary. S&P still hanging. Nas continues the downside press, 330s now. Nas sucks. Tech sucks in general. These guys, like, every chance that they get to sell over the last few days. Even though, yeah, okay, they'll move into all-time highs, but it's just constant barrage of reoffering. Big seller into these lows getting rebid on NAS.
Seeing further comments coming out from Trump speaking to reporters on Japan, says Japan wants to have a weak currency.
I went step by step, Mike. Yeah, we're at all-time highs. Whatever chance that they get, they try to sell it. Nice rebid from that 330. Yesterday's big negative delta. This could be kind of the... If they want to actually hold the bid, I think that this little head fake lower tries to get absorbed. If we can start bidding back above that 355 on this NASDAQ, I think that would make the case for these guys. S&P hasn't done anything. Big sellers trying to hold NAS under 355. It's the top and the bottom of this range on the SPOOs. The top is about 0.9 quarter, the bottom is about 0.2 half, 7 points. It's pretty good. NASDAQ is... There's potential for these guys to try and hold out. I like that little head fake lower. I need a swift bid above that, like 55, even like 360, 365 on the NAS to consider. The longs, S&P just rotating here. Dull day, dull morning. So much for Friday Funday. Reoffer on NAS again. Starting a bit better. No news this morning too. Nice bid here on Nas.
Just in Trump now speak on Hamas says you're going to have to finish the job. You know what happens after they get the hostages, according to Bloomberg. Trump's continuing to speak to reporters.
I don't know. Some resistance that's shaped up at 370 on this Nas. In terms of big sellers. I'm gonna see if I can bid this 352 area on this Nas. It might be a bit late though. These guys are trying to shape up on the rebid of all that negative delta after the head fake lower. This is kind of long gone. I think I waited a bit too long. I cancel them, but this is the thought process all in all, right? You probably come down into this area, one touch it. I wanted to see if we can hold bid, kind of rotate a bit more so I can buy into it. Didn't really do that. I just rebid now. This area over here with this like negative delta cluster around like 355, 350. I want to watch that to see if we can actually sustain the head fake lower and try to hold the bid above that area. Haters. Morning from the Balkans. A trillion degrees over here.
A trillion degrees?
1 trillion, no exaggeration. It's like the weather just consistently stays the same no matter what time of day it is. It could be like 6 in the morning or like 1 a.m. It's always the same heat.
Is it humid over there?
Not really. It's not really that humid here, which is good. How hot is the sun? I'm waiting to see if these guys want to pull back. Oh. Let me see.
Just commencing the usual market update after the US cash open. We do have US indices opening in the green. We have got S&P 500 up about 0.1%. Nasdaq is a little change, however, up about 5 basis points. Russell 2000, however, is in a bit of underperformance, down about 30%. Dow Jones up 1.1%. In terms of sectors, performance generally green. Healthcare materials up. Real estate, energy, mining. In FX, dollar remains broadly firmer. Just
So maybe Powell does cut rates, but I I didn't get on board this long. We like the idea. We tried to set it up. Right now, I do like what they're doing. They're getting people trapped continuously into higher prices. So like if we can pull back, I don't mind waiting, right? You're getting constant rebids, passive buyers against the aggressive sellers keep pushing up on Nasdaq. I've got around 355 as an important area. S&P is, I don't even know what S&P is doing. That's just a dead market right now. Nasdaq trying to push higher right now into this like 382. Sucks, but I just didn't get on. Like this was the whole plan. See if we can head fake, come into this negative delta rebid, and then try to buy it into the rotations here. But it rotated a little too high.
A more from US President Trump says it could be that we have to put secondary sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, keep sanctioning. Let me just buy this NAS. Look at this negative delta. Nice little build up here right at that area. You have a bunch of people that got a rebid there. That looks pretty interesting. Look at this S&P. This is actually insane. This looks like the market's gonna close in like 2 hours to We've left behind a lot of passive buy continuation on Nasdaq from 360, 368.
Trump and the EU says may have to buy down their tariffs. And more from Trump speaking on French President Macron. It says on the Macron's Palestinians does not carry weight.
New highs on the session on Nasdaq. It's going pretty well. It's kind of annoying, but I'm gonna be patient here. 392. Oh, you.
From Trump again on the dollar says a lower dollar makes the tariffs worth more.
S&P has just been in a rotation territory. Will this break out of the range top around like 09.5? Watch this thing as it just continues to bid. I guess the next setup that might take place is into that 420. A very sneaky one. Is it just constantly just holding this bid on this NAS? Honestly, well done to them. S&P is lagging. S&P is just gonna let NASDAQ get into that 420 before it fails. Big sellers on NAS at near this 400. The current climate, right? Like we're coming into this low volume drop off from the overnight, very heavy negative delta around 400. I'd like to see if we can come into those prior tops close to that 420 on NAS and see if there's any kind of failure to roll this over. You can see the S&P is just like rotationary, grinding, where like it seems like
unchanged at 2.4% after today's data. That's Atlanta GDP now 2.4% tracking, and that comes ahead of next week's Q2 advance report.
oh well, that's good news. S&P slowly grinding. I don't even know if it can even get to this 17. Like NASDAQ, this was the move, one touch kind of area, even on the rotations. I set them out, I tried, nothing filled. It was like 6 points away realistically. I think it was a very good setup, but here we are. I'm watching this 420, see what happens on NAS. I think that's the next setup that manifests here, but buy side pretty strong. The question is S&P going to just catch up to this? Can we get into that 17? Come into those spots where there was prior failure on the overnight?
And US President Trump was asked whether he spoke to Israel PM Netanyahu about the aid drops, and he confirms that he did talk to Netanyahu.
Another big seller trying to come in on this NAS doesn't really mean too much. S&P is like
Reiterating that most
crap.
of the trade deals are finished at the moment.
Oh.
And Trump says some of these letters that are going out will say 10%, others will say 15% tariff rates. So most of the letters instructing tariff rates, some will say 10, some will say 15.
Nice reoffer. Nice reoffer right into, well, I guess not really that close to 410, those bastards. 420. One touch rejection is kind of news driven, it seems.
And just on Netanyahu, he says, cannot say what we talked about was sort of disappointing. So that's US President Trump on Israel. Netanyahu says, can't say what we talked about was sort of disappointing.
interested. I'm starting to look at these tops as potential sells.
I was just talking about how the EU has a pretty good chance of making a deal. You would use tariff money for rebates to Americans, he says. It's US President Trump talking about how the EU has a pretty good chance of making a deal. Remember earlier in his comments he said it was about 50-50.
I don't love the idea of shorting this like 90, let's say, but like there is some sell push that's coming through. I like it a little higher. Good work, Andre. S&P, trading the S&P today. Whoa. Nah, naughty little scalper. The stream is delayed, if anyone's watching it on YouTube. Want to see those lower 400s on this NAS. S&P is really cranky. Cranky. It's not doing anything. It's like upset.
Technical trading term?
Yeah. What was it? What would you say about crude? It's off its meds?
Yeah. Crude gets off her meds quite frequently.
I think S&P took too many meds today. It's sedated.
It's over medicated.
Yeah. The blue dotted lines on the charts are the initial balance high and low. Reoffer 405 NAS. I'd rather get close to 420, if I'm being honest here. See if they can fail from there. Rather than me trying to ping it off this area. Put Fetty on here. Fetty got too medicated last night. Forgot that we were trading today.
Medicated. I got over medicated last night, buddy.
All this medicated
Over medicated.
And we different rally already is that did I miss
Yeah, bro, I missed it too. I put the limits out, it was like 4 points away from the entry, and then it just started going.
Okay. We're in the second part of the day. Are we gonna fade?
Yeah, now we fade it.
Yes.
I am looking at it, but like crap, man, I wanted to see that 420 trade on NASDAQ, and these guys are offering like lower. I'm gonna set them out. I'll put these limits out around that 403 on this NAS, trying to sell it on like small size. I'll do it. I'll try it. Could be patient and wait for the area higher, but like these reoffers that are coming through. I'll have to do it again at a higher price if this fails. Alternatively, no fill, and then I just walk for the day. 2 missed fills before I get triggered. S&P super weak today. I'm laying the trigger. I'm laying this trigger. Got a very non-itchy trigger finger today. Yeah, it's not showing me love. Maybe it fills me here right into a stop. That'd be poetic. I don't really want to do it lower.
Sounds bad when you say it. Like, yeah, I missed the rally, so I chased the fade.
Yeah. So I sold it after it dropped 25 points into the low of the rotation. That sounds very stupid when I say it out loud. This S&P though, it tags like low support. Some of these filled. It was an interesting reoffer.
It is.
That might have been a shakeout before they nerf prices into the moon. Thing is, like, it seems like a lot of people are getting jammed into the lows of these rotations without really too much on the offer. Like S&P looks super weak, but S&P is like trying to hold this like weird support while Nasdaq has ripped the entirety of the day.
thing that is that I can't unsee now is what Victoria just said. It's like that there is actually a lot of seller, like a lot of selling into those
Yeah, I got
those
trapped.
rotations on the footprint. And yeah,
Right. Again, just to recap some of the main ones that he spoke
Yeah,
about on
these
trading
guys got a little
50-50
like
percent
accumulated
shots.
down here, which is like
Later, he was suggesting that there is a good chance of a deal with the EU. He was wide-ranging, but stuck to familiar points on the Fed.
the area is not the best. I just saw like a bunch of failures with people getting trapped into the highs that looked interesting.
China says he has the confines of a deal with
But
China nearing the deal. On Funday, he was a bit more brash. He said on Funday it could just be a tariff, not a negotiation. And he confirmed that some tariff letters were going out on Friday. And on Russia, he says it could be
yeah, I don't like this really.
sanctions on Russia. And elsewhere, he was talking about how most of the trade deals are finished, and most of the letters that are going out today are obstructing tariff rates. Some will say 10%, some will say 15%. Again, familiar talking points, recap available on our newsfeed.
You guys got a little too stuck into that low. Jumped the gun before that 420 trades. S&P holding the bottom of this balance extremely well, trading new session highs here on Nasdaq. It's like they gotta break like 380 area for any kind of momentum shift, which is proving to be a very, very difficult thing with constant rebidding and these guys getting stuck into that low. These guys are going. Bum, bum, bum. I rushed into this a little too soon before that area actually traded here. I saw some rotations. These guys are holding the negative delta way too well here after missing that little long.
Just on the trade front between India and New Zealand, they have concluded the second round of free trade agreement talks. Next round will be September, according to the statement.
big seller to the rescue.
Yeah.
Are you the one we're waiting for?
Or is it time to use my entry as support? Well, that's the key question here. A little expansion outside of this range right now. They're trying to hold this micro move above this 400. Thing is, like every time a large seller gets active into a low of a rotation, just kind of using it as support. What happened to Nasdaq being crappier?
What happened to Spoos being alive? So it's the same market.
They're pretty dead.
Comments. Comments.
Excuse me. Literally using my entry as support. This is what dreams are made of. I jumped the gun. Like, I think I got into this too quickly. I think there might have been a better entry, but let's see. The key is to break 380 on this move. Which is like, might be asking a lot.
Selling, will they get trapped and continue higher, or did it force another swing back to the lows? That's kind of weird to see here.
Yeah, these guys, like, okay, they pulled lower, but then what happens if we revisit this 380, 385 where they accumulated everyone last time around?
Yeah.
Even
That's
like
really...
I was gonna say, even into this 390, there are some people that are trapped, that are trying to hold right now. S&P in like the stupidest little range on the day. We traded the 390 here. They tried to hold bid from it. A lot of imbalances here. Trying to hold these guys on the buy. Yeah, the thing is, like, they got a lot of work to do to break these incremental continuous supports that have been slightly higher and higher. You can see the chunk of negative delta on this screen that's like it's acting as a major support structure now. See a quick rejection from 390, prior trap seller down there, passive buyer. And get this guy stuck into this like 402 area. That'd be interesting. it is. 404, I don't know exactly. S&P now trying to break out, okay. Fair enough. Kind of using that buyer as support. Yeah, I need the biggest stop run of all time, send it back into lows of day. Yeah, too bad the support right now is very consistently holding.
Yeah. It bounces off that low and decreases the probability of that hillside governor. It feels like it takes more work for the sellers to force the rotation.
Oh, for sure.
The image can change. We're hoping that it does change.
I'm praying here, this is my number one strategy. Get the prayer beads out.
And if you want more participation points, market the truth. This is how we really support.
Support the flush of trillions of stops. Holy crap, this thing is so slow.
I know now. Well, they both look the same.
S&P looks worse. If I was trading S&P today, I'd honestly lose my mind.
Man, oh man, what is this? Like, what is happening? Is it
It's like a not even 10-point range, I don't even think. It might be a 10-point range, I don't know even. Oh god, these guys keep getting stuck into these lows. I made a mistake sitting at the desk today. Interesting offer to nothingness. I gotta follow through at least under this 390 to start getting things going. 391s, 392s again. Alternatively, I just take 10 points and call it a win. Say I'm the champion of the world. $390. Pesky, pesky, pesky. My screen is delayed because you're watching a YouTube stream. Rebid off the 390 yet again. These guys are savages. That S&P could formulate a little more of a push lower, but here we are. is this trade lasted? About 20 minutes. It's not even that long. We've been in worse, we've been in longer. Are these guys not tired of just hammering longs at 390? S&P just got a little bit of a bid. Mike, I don't even think I have to taunt them. I think they're putting in a shift whether I like it or not. The barrier is officially 390. And below that 380. Oh boy. 10-point increments. Not bad. Not bad at all.
And just note from US President Trump, he's on Truth Social now, saying Trump to take US beef for the first time, a very big market, hopes grain farmers are happy, make America great again.
There is some solace that this position hasn't completely been run over just yet, but my expectations have dwindled significantly. Now there was a lot of buying that's trying to support the idea around that 400. This might be the worst trading day in the last like month. I can't remember further than that, but this is pretty bad.
Yeah, I'd say that the opening move was at 9:38. The opening move on Nasdaq, there was not much movement. We just moved up, fold, and yes, completely since the open stalled. So not much opportunity here.
Like I tried to buy into that 350 on the rebid higher, but nothing. And now I'm over here in this like 30-minute long just garbage position. Oh. Bids are starting to show up. 410, jeez. The goal on a day like today is like just don't get chopped up. You take one trade. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then like enjoy the weekend.
Yeah.
Trying to force things in these conditions is like a freaking death sentence.
Some enthusiasm from that push lower.
Let's see who comes out at 390. 390, my number one hater. Congrats, someone gets stuck into the 393. Oh, you guys are crazy. Crazy, I tell you. Yeah, well. This time not even 390. Do this early exit pull. Whoa.
European framework trade deal with the US could happen this weekend, according to US EU officials and diplomats.
Holy crap. That spike almost nerfed me. Or wait. What the hell was that? Oh my god.
Alright. Almost stops you, then comes back just to rotate.
Yeah, I think this thing's dead.
Some ungodly isolation. It's like, oh, bam,
Yeah. The rope comes out very quick with these ones. S&P decides to break out. It's been crap all day.
Like, at least show me some profit, give some leash to their rope.
I know. I'm probably gonna get nerfed on this. Too many people got stuck into that 390. Not the best of entries too. I kind of jumped the gun on these guys. Like you have some sellers trying around like 412 area, but these incremental higher lows of people getting trapped continuously is not in my favor. Well, this hope and rope game is getting too much. It's emotionally draining. Been in this for a solid 30 minutes and it's looked good for about 30 seconds at a time. S&P pretty close to that auction top. Well, so is NASDAQ actually. They just waited for each other. I think the idea makes more sense, like I was talking about, from those higher price points into those like 20s. Honestly, like the higher probabilities, even if you head fake above this and then start rolling over, very similar to what had happened here into these lows, but just too late on those lows. I'm in pretty crappy short position here where everyone just accumulated all their passive buyers right in my face. And there's some accumulation of people getting a little trapped into that 407. Oh, is this the hope part before the rope?
Not so much.
How kind of them. How so kind of them. This point of control in the day right here, that sucks. S&P looks like it wants to break out yet again. tempted sellers keep trying to kind of get in, but the reoffer, the speed, and the actual press is a very, very different topic. And this position hasn't moved enough for me to even consider break-evens or any kind of adjustment. At one point when we kept failing that 3-9, I was like, do I just take 11 points, 12 points, whatever it is, and just call it? That's looking like not a bad plan right now. The way this is rotating, I could be in this trade until Monday. A little bit of hope, a little bit of rope. A large amount of passive buying, trap selling just came into that 402 area. I think there's probably going to be some form of reversal that comes in today, but it's kind of looking less and less likely that it's going to be here. Not to mention that this entry was beyond awful. The only worst entry I could have had was selling 390.